Hi everybody, it's crazy, it's Monday, and it's time for the UPBGE video of the week. Now before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trusted because you guys rock. To my crazy fam, I love you guys. Now we're up to episode number 88, and we left off last week on page 43. It was at the top, but that's where the rest of the code was, and we have made it over to, let's go to this one. This is the same code that you get from the book. Okay, we put it in there. And this is the shader that we had made, okay? So I'm going to continue on from that from last week, okay? So if you're feeling faint, don't panic. Just wait until you get to chapter 7. This script has a nice blend of Python and GLSL. But it's not complicated once you break it down. Okay, I broke it down a little bit last week, but I'm going to follow through the book and let you hear what the book says exactly what this is about, okay? Python will be formally introduced in chapter 7. You can skip ahead and read the relevant part first before continuing from here, okay? I usually just follow through the book, and that's what we're going to do. I haven't done chapter 7 yet, so when that comes through, I'm going to put it up here. And if you want to skip ahead, you can. It won't be today. It'll be when we get to chapter 7. So you'll just follow along with me then. But for anyone who just popped in here thinking they're going to learn a little bit of Python, it should be up here. If it doesn't show up here, you'll have to follow through and go down to chapter 7. Okay? We'll continue on. All right. So line 1, okay, which is this line right here, okay? Line 1 loads the BGE Python module, which is the BGE, okay, the Blender game engine, which allows us to use the BGE API with the Python script, okay. Line 2 is equivalent to, okay, yeah, and also we imported logic, because we need to import our logic in there, okay. Line 2 is equivalent to, and we're going to put it this way, scene equals logic.getCurrentScene, okay? So scene, okay, would be what this is because our shader object is in the scene, okay? The logic.getCurrentScene, okay? The objects.getCube is object scene objects, okay? So basically this is what they call a shortened version. It's a little bit different than what you're used to. Especially if you've done any Python, a lot of people do it this way now. It's what do they call it? Op-oop. What do I call it? Same as my game, but I can't. Object-oriented programming, and this is kind of part of that because it's just basically just shortens it up to where you don't have 1, 2, 3 lines. You have 1 line. Okay, and what it is, and I'm going to switch over here real quick. Let me kick. Yeah, there we go. Okay, basically it's going to run up to these guys right here, okay? That's what it's going to be. Because your shader object, okay, it gets, it's objects.getCube, which is this right here, okay? Your shader object, equals object.getCube. But the objects, okay, are scene objects. So you got to get the current scene. So scene.objects, okay, dot objects on this actually pulls from the scene, so you're going to have the logic get current scene, okay? So that's all that actually is. So you're basically just adding these together to where you don't have to have the extra, you don't have to have the scene in here if you put the logic in there. And your shader object, so you're going to put this one down here. If you look back at the code, you'll see that, the logic.getCurrentScene, okay? Then it's going to have its brackets. Then it's going to have dot. Okay, then it's going to come back up here to objects.getCube. Okay, so each object is already in there. So you just shortened, you basically just alleviated this line here and put these 2 lines together and took out the scene. Okay, just a little bit of interesting information there. Okay, one important concept to remember, let me switch back over to here. Okay, one important concept to remember is that the GLSL shader is linked to material. Even though you got the material by referencing an object, the GLSL shader is always replacing a material. This means that if multiple objects share the same material, the shader will run on all the objects. The same thing as if you put that material on a bunch of different things, your shader will also be on those different things, is all it's saying. Okay? So you are looking for an object named cube within a list of all the objects in the current scene, and you assign the cube object to a variable named shader object. That's technically what this right here is saying to do. You're making the shader object, okay, point to the cube in your scene, okay? Line 4, and we'll go to line 4, it's just your vertex shader. Vertex shader is simply a multi-line Python string. Multi-line strings are declared by triple quotation marks. 1, 2, 3, okay? Triple quotation marks. These little guys right here, okay? Oops, not those two. Come on, get on there. 3, okay, and 3. Same thing here, 3 and 3. Okay, the content of the string is the actual GLSL code. To clarify, the variable vertex shader is still a Python string object, but the content happens to be another language, GLSL. But it's all the same to Python. The string could be in Chinese and Python wouldn't care. Notice the vertex shader is wrapped in a main function, just like in C. This is where the execution of the code will start. Okay. Okay, so basically that's wrapped in a main. So it's going to run the C code for that. So you can run any other code inside Python. See, that's a trick that a lot of people don't look at when they're doing, when they're building stuff. You can run code in Blender or in Python and in Blender, because this is in Blender. This isn't what do they call it, a notebook, or what do they call them? To be able to write code, you have to have, a program that can, read it and understand it and compile it. You've got it right here, all in Blender. All right, so let's see. Yeah. This is where the execution of the code will start. Starting on line 11, analogous to the vertex shader, the fragment shader is another multi-Python string containing the fragment shader GLSL code. That's this right here. That's this group right there. Okay. So basically, up underneath that, up underneath the vertex shader, you've got your fragment shader, and you remember you have to have the fragment shader or it will mess up. Okay. Line 18 onward will until the end. The Python code is used to invoke the GLSL shader declared above. Okay. First, you loop through the internal meshes attached to the object. Then, okay, that's this right here. You're iterating through the cube. Okay, you're looking for the materials. Okay, in the mesh object mesh mesh dot materials. Try to say that 5 times fast. Okay. Okay. First, you loop through the internal meshes attached to the object. Then, iterating through each mesh, you find all the materials attached to it. Iterating is going through. Okay. It looks through each one. Looking through, iterating, same thing. Okay, since meshes can have multiple materials, up to 16, iterating through all of them ensures that you replace all the materials on that object with your shader. Conversely, you can modify the code to apply a unique shader to each material on the same mesh. Okay, so as it's going through, you can add different ones to it. Okay. Don't write this code. Since we are trying to keep this example as short and simple as possible, the code is very bad error handling ability. For example, it would not be good if an object by the name of cube is not found in the scene, or if the object named cube isn't a mesh. Do not write code like this in real life. Okay? You don't want to use this exact code because you don't have error handlers. Error handlers are, if the cube is not there, say you got a sphere and you put cube, you know, guess what? What's going to happen is it's going to look for cube and it's going to crash. It's going to say, hey, I got a problem. And if you don't know enough about code, you're going to be digging through trying to figure out what the heck you did wrong. All the while, you should have named it sphere instead of cube. Or if you put a comma instead of a period. Or you put a tick instead of a quote. that has happened a lot. In coding, you got to have the exact verbatim wording, okay? Now, naming stuff, naming variables like this right here can be anything you want. I could just name it object 1 and it'll do the same. But they named it shader object so you can understand that it's a shader object, okay? We don't want to run this code because it will crash, okay? Or it has a possibility of crashing because what if you didn't set up a material on that cube? It will crash because it doesn't have. This is a slight, error handler right here, but it's not a full handler, okay? All it's saying is if there's no shader, add the shaders, okay? All right, so line 21 might look a bit convoluted, but in English, it simply means that there is a shader. I'm gonna make sure we're line 21 here, right there. This one right here, okay? It simply means that if there is a shader, the script goes on to check if the shader is valid. If it's not, a new shader is created using the vertex shader and fragment shader text string as the input. If there is already a valid shader, nothing more is done. Okay? So that's an if statement. Okay? So an if, it says if this, then you do this. If not this, then you do that. Okay? So if it says if shader is not, okay, none or and not shader dot is valid, okay, that just means that if there is no shader, it's going to put one. If there is one, it will skip it, okay, because it's saying if not. If there's not equal. Not equal means that it is not equal to. Equal means that there is a none and there is a shader dot is valid. Okay, so it's going to try to find those. If it doesn't find those, it puts that. Okay, if it does find one, that continues on. It ain't going to worry about it. Okay. Done. Okay, shaders only need to be compiled and bound once at the start of the game, not every frame. Otherwise, the GLSL compilation will significantly slow down the game. Okay, so you don't want this to run every tick. So if you put this, and I'm just going to show you real quick. Okay, if you put this with an always and you true level trigger it, it's going to do it every single frame, and it will trigger this every single frame looking for the shader. And so all you're doing is just wasting time. You don't want to do that, okay? That's something you do not want to do. Okay, you can't put a always on it, but you can have it just set up at start. Okay. Okay, save the script as a new text file in Blender. So we're going to save it as a new text file. Use the above GLSL shader script. It needs to be invoked once within the game engine. You can easily accomplish this by setting up a simple logic brick chain. Okay. All right, so we got to save this text. All right, they put my shader, so we're going to rename ours to my shader, capital S. Yeah, okay, and that's what they call camel script or camel text, is that it has humps. Okay, it has a capital letter in between none of those just so you can see it, and I kind of like it. Okay, so now I've got that. It's not really saved. unless you save it, and you don't really have to save it, okay? So once it's in there, it'll stay in this file once you save the file. Okay, and I already saved that last week. Hopefully you saved yours from last week. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to put an always, but we're going to leave true triggering off. Leave it off. You're not going to need it. Okay, then we're going to come over here to Python. Okay, or add controller. We're going to go down to Python, and then we're going to connect them up like this. Okay, we're going to run a script. Okay, you can also do other things like do a module. Module is just basically looking for something in your script file. Okay, in your code, and it's looking for something to run, a specific thing to run. You would put that in the module. Okay, so we're gonna do shader, my shader. Okay, you're gonna find it in. You just click on the little thing right here, the little notebook, and as you see, I've got the module one. If you have 2.5. You'll have this every time you load it up. It's annoying, but a lot of people use this module because you can actually just delete some stuff off and use it. But your my shader should be right there, or whatever you named it. Okay. All right, so you can try to copy this setup with the provided Blender file at chapter 5 GLSL1.blend. Okay, so I'm going to hit file and I'm going to hit save. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down, we're going to hit open, and I'm usually in this, okay, because this is where I was at. It's saying going to GLSL1, which would be this one, okay. And it says you can try to copy this setup with the provided Blender file at this. So you can open the GLSL file, okay, and if I open it right now, because I've already saved it, okay, you get this one, okay. Because there is no object named cube, you need to modify the script a bit by replacing the line. Okay, which is shader object equals logic.getCurrentScene.objects.getCube with shader object equals logic.getCurrentScene.objects.getMonkey. So the only thing you will have to change in your script, and I'm just going to come up here real quick. Where's it at? There it is. Okay, I'm going to go like this. I'm just going to copy all this just to throw it in there. Oh, yeah, not that much. Let me see if I can do this without copying everything. I don't want to copy everything. No. Okay, I guess I'm going to have to do it in 2 parts. Why won't you go down? Okay. Let's try another way. And you can open more than one instance of your thing here. All you gotta do is just click it again. Okay, and I'm gonna open my, where's it at? Coding blend. I'm gonna come up here and I'm just gonna copy this, Control C. Okay, I'm gonna flip over to my to this one, which is the GLSL one. Okay, I'm gonna come over here. I'm going to scroll this. I'm going to hit the little plus marker. I'm going to paste my stuff in here. Hit Control V, or you can hit right click on it. Okay, and I got to go back over to here so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. Okay, so that puts everything in. As you notice, nothing else except for text formatting is in there. So if you put everything back in, it'll be the same way. Okay. And then you're going to drag this window down. We're going to make this one the logic editor. Okay, it's already got a Python script set for in here. All you have to do is hit, well, it's floor. Hang on. There we go. Okay, you've already got an always, and it's just got a simple motion on it. You can, you know, either delete that, or you can just add a new one, add a new always. And scroll down, oops, back up, add your Python controller, then scroll down. Okay, make sure true level triggering is not on, which it is not because it would light up if it is. You're going to find your script. I'm just going to leave it as text. You can put it whatever you want. Okay, and now it will do that, but the problem is you will run into that error code and it's telling you to change it here. Okay, you're going to change this to monkey. Okay, so we'll go back down there. Let me scroll back down. There we go. Okay, so you're just going to change this right here to monkey. Okay, so that's what the name of the object is. If you look down here, that's the name of the object. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Whenever you're writing code, you have to have the proper names for proper stuff. Okay, run the game and enjoy the new orange monkey. Okay, is what it says. So if you hit P, my monkey disappears. I don't know where it went. Huh. I lost it. Either which way, what you want to do is, let me find my other one real quick. That's just in the files. Cancel. All right. So I messed that one all up. Okay, my cube came up and it's supposed to make it orange. I didn't do it right. Apparently something messed up. Okay, so because the GLSL replaces the entire material pipeline with your own code, no shading is applied on the model unless you explicitly tell it to. This is why the monkey head is a flat shade of orange, which it's not. Okay, if I hit this one, didn't do it here either because I have it set. It's odd. Don't know why it ain't working, but you know, this is how code works. You got to figure out bugs. All right, so remember that custom GLSL shaders are always applied to each material, not the object, nor the mesh. This means any object with the same material will all share the same shader. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there for this week. I'm in it for 22 minutes today. Hope you learned a little bit about coding. Next week, we're going to do a little bit more. Like I said, we got to finish up chapter 5. And there's quite a bit of coding you get to play with. But for the most part, coding isn't as hard as it looks. Okay? Don't let it intimidate you. Don't be afraid of it. Learn it. You know, it will actually accent your games and help your games go forward. Okay? Unfortunately, I didn't do something right. It was something in my code. I probably got a period or a comma somewhere that I shouldn't. That happens a lot, okay? And, you know, that's a lot of people who talk about, you know, games and how they suck and this, that, and the other. They don't realize how much goes into one game, and even a simple game. If you ever get a chance to download GTA Z that I made, you'll see that it's a lot of code. And it's very easy to put a comma like here, okay? Put a comma here instead of a period, okay? Because you're typing away, you're reading off, or you're going through your mind trying to remember what to put in, and yeah, you can easily mess it up. And that one little period will cause a huge hiccup. Now, up here in your window, you can toggle the system console, okay? If you toggle the system console, you will have, bring this up, it'll bring it up. Now see, it'll say error Python Q, Python script error. It'll tell you my shader, line 19 in module, okay, KMesh object has no attribute materials. So I never put a material on it, okay? Don't ever close it, minimize it, okay guys? I'm just letting you know that because that will suck if you get stuck with that. So what you can do is just go over here to materials, okay? It has a material, okay, but it has a default material, okay? That's just a default material. You need to add one, okay? So if you add one and you just hit new material, okay? Now if I do it, I should be able to hit play and it should change it. No, okay, well I guess I still messed it up. All right, so we go to our console. Okay, and it redid it again. Has no vertices for material. MA material. It is introduced performance decrease for empty render. Okay, so somehow or other, KMesh is not getting its materials. Okay, So that's something that's beyond me right now. So I'm not going to sit there and try to find it. If you did this in regular Blender, it would do, you probably would see it. And I'll probably do that next week just to show you. All right, but that's where I'm going to leave it off for this week. Let me switch back over to here. And so we're going to leave off on page 45. A useful fragment shader is what we're going to do next week. Okay, so kind of keep in mind that, you know, when you're working with code, one little thing can throw it off. Right now, it's saying it ain't got a material, but it does have a material, but it's not that great of a code. And next week, we're going to be working with the useful fragment shader that's going to help us out with that even more. Okay, so stay tuned.